right. Good afternoon. It's Jen Bonet, the Creative Coast, and we are here today with Steve Quill, who's a ATDC mentor, good friend of mine, and a partner at Tech CXO, who's going to talk to us about the upcoming Venture Atlanta 2020. And I'm a big fan of Venture Atlanta. I've presented on that stage once. I've gone to it every year, probably since it started. And it is the de facto Southeast venture capital conference, the highest quality one that is out there for any entrepreneurs that are seeking to raise capital from the Southeast. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Thanks, Jen. And I see Mark and I see Christopher in the name list here, so welcome, guys. I'm going to spend a few minutes here on just a couple of slides with some information so that you can have some facts and specifics about the conference that Jen alluded to. As she mentioned, this is certainly is considered the premier venture conference in the Southeast, but it's really grown in stature to be one of the top venture programs in the United States. And this year, of all years, like everything, it's going to be different. If for no other reason than it is going to be held. Many conferences have been canceled, and so Venture Atlanta will proceed. However, it will proceed as a live conference, as many professional meet and greets have become. I'll be honest, I've been engaged with Venture Atlanta for the past 5 years. I've been a member of the recruiting and selection committee. My firm, Tech CXO, has been a sponsor since day one of the conference. So we, like Jen, have deep roots with the conference and a high degree of respect for the people that formed it, people that run it, and the people that come through it, because we've seen some real winners pass across that stage in the course of the 15 years. But again, the announcement that this was going to take place online initially caught me a little bit sideways. I frankly wasn't convinced something like this could be successful because for me, so much of the value of the conference is the face-to-face personal relationships, the contact, the networking between entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. And so I thought, how in the world is this going to take place? But the more we learn about how this is going to occur, the more I have come to believe that this will actually be better. Because so much of what's occurred in the past that relied on that face-to-face relied on serendipity and schedules and the ability to get with people in a very crowded space in a 2-day period, now will be held open as far as the ability to make contact and connections over the course of the coming year. And I'll explain more about that when I mean it. So yes, it's going to be virtual, but it's also going to be much extended in terms of its reach and value for those participants. And so let's get into some particulars. Again, a digital experience. And some might think, well, this is one great big Zoom meeting. That's not at all what it's going to be. The technology exists to make this a very directed and personal experience for those who will choose to participate. And I think you'll see that as more information comes out and comes to light. But the ability to organize and direct the attention, whether it's to speakers who we'll have, and we're going to have some world-class speakers like Arianna Huffington and Dharma Shah, who was the founder of HubSpot, and a number of other leaders in the venture capital industry who will be speaking on a schedule basis. The ability for people to meet the VCs, the venture capitalists, the members of the fund that are going to be present digitally again, but to set appointments, set times, they can find you, you can find them. So it's really going to be, in my opinion, again, a lot more open and a lot more available. So the panels, the pitches, the speakers, the breakout sessions, all those things which would have occurred physically are still going to happen, but quite frankly, in a much more organized fashion And you can wear your best top and not have to worry about what sort of pants or dress you're wearing at that, because you'll be online. So what can I say? The networking opportunities, again, I think will be evergreen. And I think that's an important concept that this conference brings, the evergreen nature of the presentations that the companies will offer, the financial information that they will provide, the evergreen nature of the contacts that you'll make and have access to those people that sign up and participate, and the ability to create those one-on-one meetings, not just within the space of 2 days, as has been in the past, in a crowded ballroom scenario or with some sidebar meeting rooms, but again, open and available to you. So I look forward to it, and I wanted to brief the people that have an interest in participating as companies. So who's going to participate? There are well over 200 venture funds from across the U.S. who will be active and present and available during this conference. That number is actually a little bit higher, or will be a little bit higher than has been in past years. So again, a value of this virtual nature is people don't have to fly from California or New York or Boston and set up in a hotel, and they can do this from their offices or living rooms, as it were. So you're going to have more people with access. We're actually going to have more companies participating. There's going to be over 100 companies from the southeast quadrant of the U.S. And what I mean by that is, if you think of the map of the United States and you look at that segment of the southeast, which goes from the mid-Atlantic, think Washington, D.C., south to Florida, across to Texas, up through the southern plains, including Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi. That's going to be the segment from which the companies, the participants, will be drawn. Now, those companies are going to break into 3 levels, as has been the case in the past, where we've got the top tier of the venture category. These are companies that have been scaling or are in the process of scaling up, and they're raising a significant amount of capital. Typically, it's north of $5 million. More often than not, they're on the second or third raise. Series B is not unusual to see in this. Upwards of 10 to 15 million have been raised in the past from their exposure in the venture land, often in syndication. The second level is the early stage companies, and these are companies that have evidence market traction. They have found product market fit, and they are rising quickly. They're raising very often in their first Series Seed or Series A anywhere between $1 million and $5 million. And so there'll be 36 companies split between these 2 categories. It's not always 16 and 16 or 15 and 15, but it's going to be around 35 to 36 companies. And that number adjusts based upon the applicants. We try to balance it between the 2, but of course it depends on the number of applicants that come in. The third level is the showcase level, and this is where I think the value of this conference format, the digital format, is really going to shine. These are companies, and there's probably anywhere between 50 to 60 companies this year. And again, that number isn't fixed. And because of this venue being virtual, there's really fewer limitations in the past. So there's some speculation that number could actually rise. Again, that will depend on the quality of companies applying here, because whereas in the past we might have had some tiebreakers, there may be a decision just to bring a couple aboard. These are showcase companies that are often, in many cases, pre-revenue. Most have found some level or degree of revenue, but not all. Some have raised money already, more often than not, family and friends. They may be seeking angel capital. Some are actually bumping up against that initial seed series. But again, these are true early stage companies. So we'll get into some discussion of how each of these companies are broken out. So to summarize, 3 levels, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 companies. Probably 40% are going to be split between venture and early stage. The other 60% will be showcase. The venture and the showcase, the venture and the early stage companies are what we refer to as the presenting companies. These are companies that were, in the past, they've actually walked the stage, as Jen pointed out when she did this. These are companies that will be featured on the stage in a 3-minute presentation. This year, that number has come down to 3 minutes. It has been, when I started with Venture Atlanta, it was 6, then it became 5, then it was 4 last year, now it's 3. I hope they don't go to 2 next year, but this year it's 3.
That's crazy. That's short.
It's gonna, this is the challenge, and this is why a lot, preparations, who was it? Mark Twain said, if I'd have had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. Well, we're going to write shorter presentations here, so we've got a little time. The companies will be featured on the Venture Atlanta website. All right, there's going to be a lot of good PR for these companies. They're going to be prominently featured in the main program. Again, the date of this is October 21 and 22. That's the date of the actual program, the announced and presented program. This year, unlike years past when you were on your own to build your pitch and come and present it with your slide deck, we're going to set up a studio in which you can create a professional 3-minute presentation that will be available for everyone to see, not just during those 2 days of October 21 and 2, but now throughout the coming year. So the companies that are close to Atlanta, and certainly I think Savannah would qualify, you would come to Atlanta, you would come to the Marriott Marquis. There's a whole bunch of good provisions being put in place for safety and distancing so that people can safely come in. And then with creative assistance, create your pitch. It'll get edited down to the 3 minutes, and now that will be your legacy from this particular event. Again, available on the video platform. The video platform is available on Venture Atlanta for the entire year. Similarly, when you submit your financials, in years past, you would be once and done when you submitted your applications. Your financials would go in with your application, and that was it. Well, if anything changed between August and October, it didn't reflect. This year, the ability will be provided to update those financials, not just through October 22nd, but for the remainder of that year. As new events occur, new accounts are won, new businesses brought in, new revenue streams are identified, they can be reflected in the financials. Every presenting company has access to the profile information of every attending investor. So that's been true in years past, but now you're going to have that ability to reach out and touch someone digitally, messaging, getting appointments, and getting interaction, whether by Zoom or phone or whatever. But you're going to have the ability to look at who the investors are that are attending, make decisions about who the best investors are for you, reach out and ask for time, ask for meetings, ask for appointments. And again, heretofore, that would have been a cutoff at the October timeframe. That's going to remain evergreen as well. So every company can set up with meetings with anyone on the platform, including service providers for that matter. VA will continue to market the company presentations post-conference to those funds who perhaps didn't attend. So this, again, takes on some additional impact by making available your information, the company information, to investors who might have been interested in attending but didn't have time or couldn't get away, but still has an interest in meeting companies in the Southeast. So again, more exposure. And last but not least, presenting companies are going to get 2 free tickets to the event, as well as a discount for additional tickets in the event they want to bring other members of their firm. Differently than in the past, for the showcase companies, they're going to have access to all these same features. That's what the presenting companies, they're going to be featured on the website with extensive press and marketing support, PR. There's going to be a highlight summary in the digital conference book, and we're going to set up a digital trade show floor. In years past, and this has gone on for probably the last 4 years, and initially, quite frankly, everyone agrees it wasn't done particularly well. I think last year was much better, but still, The time you had was setting up a tabletop booth for presentations during, a several-hour cocktail hour, and a room that was loud and noisy, and you were dependent upon having people walk by. Now people are going to have the ability to look at the information on the company, visit a booth, click on a button, hear a 75-second recorded pitch. So you too will, the showcase companies will also be able to record a 75-second pitch, and you have a chance to meet those investors coming by can request to meet the founder. Interestingly enough, too, the companies will know who clicked on the showcase companies so that you can see in real time who's visiting the booth, so that you can follow up and ask questions or ask for information. And the trade show floor and the pitches will also remain in place for a year. So as with the presenting companies, all this info can be updated throughout the course of the year. So as the showcase companies continue to grow, continue to emerge, continue to make progress, that can be reflected in your financial information and the information that you want to have available about your company. The ability to meet one-on-one with investors is the same with service providers. The point is anybody can interact and network with anybody they'd like. There isn't any preference there as far as who can or can't meet. So the registration list will all be sent out in advance so that you'll know who the investors are and you can set up and prepare. And I think this is, from my standpoint, as someone who's led about a dozen companies through this process and put them through the whole gamut, including getting them up on stage, the real benefit isn't so much in having a pitch prepared and given, but in making meetings happen, making those contacts happen, getting and giving exchange of information with investors for the purpose of getting add-on and follow-on meetings. And so that's really still here and still available, and I think in even a more beneficial format. This is a concept, an example of just of what the trade show may look like. And again, picture this on a screen. It's a interactive. You can come in and click on a booth. I don't have the ability to do this. This is just a mock-up of a screen, but picture your name on one of these signs. Someone can be looking at this thing, go in there, click on it, see a menu drop down, see what they want to see, whether it's the 75-minute pitch, the information about the founders, the team. So an investor can make decisions. At the same time, these companies will know which investors did that clicking and can also follow up in that regard. So stay tuned, more to follow as far as the details of how this will work. But I think this is a very exciting element. And again, this will last and be available for a full year following the October event. So it lives on, and you have the opportunity to maintain and update accordingly. So my recommendation is for anybody that's interested, whether it's the folks attending this now or the folks that see this later, we've got a deadline here for application. The deadline is August 28th, and it's a hard deadline. Go to the website. It's extremely robust and self-explanatory. www.ventureatlanta.org. Add it to your calendar today. Know that you've got these dates: August 28th for application, October 21 and 22 for the event, and then go do some homework. Go to the page, the companies page on ventureatlanta.org/companies, and download the executive summary. Whether you choose to apply or not, that's a tool that I think you'll want to use for yourself anyway. Look at the application, review the application. It's simple, it's online. You add some things like your logo, you add some things like your headshot, you upload your one-page executive summary, you upload your financials, and you review and you submit your application. So I've helped companies through this process numerous times in the past. It really is not an ordeal at all.
Steve, for those listening in, the executive summary is the standard executive summary that they teach at ATDC and we teach here at the
Exactly. So it's a no-brainer. But again, my perspective on this, because, well, let me start by saying this is the screenshot here of the ventureatlanta.org company slide. Here it is. Step 1, download the summary. Step 2, fill out the application. When you click on the Apply Now button, the screens come up, shows you what you can fill, and you can start and you can come back to it later. You don't have to submit it all at once. So you can go back and pick up where you left off if you want to get some of the information now, go gather some other details, and then before you hit the final button, you want to make sure that you've got all your components, and it'll test you for that. So it's pretty bulletproof in that regard. Again, back to the executive summary. I really like this tool. I've been working with it as long as I've been with the ATDC. It's become a lot more universal, certainly in our climate here, but it's a useful tool and exercise, irrespective of whether you participate in Venture Atlanta or not. I think there's multiple uses for it, including a leave behind. If you ever have a pitch that you do to an angel or to a company, this is your leave behind. So upload it when you get time to put your application. But again, this lives forever and something you can always go back to and update with any new changes or developments as you change investors or you bring in new employees, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really all I had by way of the structured information. So I'm wide open to take any questions and to talk about how this might appeal or how you as companies might work with this. And again, I can be reached if you want to contact me at steve.quell, Quehl, at techcxo.com. And I'd be happy to chat with you about any questions you might have about applying to Venture Atlanta.